Welcome along to this week's edition of Behind the Boxes. I'm Mark Ducos. We've got a big show coming up today. We're going to meet Jorja Howard and her dad, Rob, who Georgia's a young lady who's just made her way into the training ranks, doing great things at the moment. We're also going to talk with Nick Babos and Stephen Bowes from Greyhound Racing New South Wales. We'll talk to Nicky about the Phoenix and Greyhound Racing New South Wales earning a slot in that race, which comes up at the Meadows in December last year. It's been a big week of greyhound racing. We've got all our regular segments as well coming up later, including What's Hot, What's Not, and the ever popular rumour file. Good morning and welcome to my old mate, Timmy, the Battler Newbell. How's week 127 of lockdown going, mate?
Yeah, g'day, Duke. Well, we're counting down the days until we get out of it, that's for sure. But yeah, not a great deal happening, just work-wise, we're always busy at Greyhound Racing New South Wales, and everything changing here and there along the way. There's been plenty of great racing over the last week or so, Duke. We'll get into that a little later on, but yeah, I think we've got an exciting 6 to 12 months ahead of us with some of these young greyhounds coming through the ranks and really stepping up. And as I said, we'll touch on that a little later on.
Yeah, we will. Track records have been falling. As said, it's we're into spring now, so the tracks are getting faster, obviously, but we'll talk about those track records in a little bit later. But training greyhounds is often looked upon as being for someone, well, how do I put it, of a more mature age, like myself, Battler. But when a young person comes along and has success, it always piques the interest. Now, one young lady who's doing that at the moment is 18-year-old Jorja Howard, who has got a family steeped in greyhound racing. Jorja and her dad, Rob Howard, join us on Behind the Boxes today. And I guess it's one thing, Jorja, to have a family involved in the industry, but when did you actually realise that you really wanted to become involved and become a trainer?
I was about probably 8-year-old when I first owned my first greyhound, Zipper. And she ended up winning about 19 races. And yeah, the love of the sport started from there, and plus all the family members that had greyhounds and were involved. So yeah, it's just been a continuing stream of love for the sport, really.
And Georgie, your dad Rob sitting next to you there. You guys, you train out of mum and dad's property in the beautiful Hunter Valley. You operate the Kind Bar straight track there. Just tell us about the property. Well, how many kennels? What is the setup you've got there?
Yeah, we're sitting on about 70 acres of land here. Got the 400-metre straight track. There's 3 different sets of yards split out with all our pups. They go from 3 to 4 months in one area, then I think about 5 months to 9 months in another, and then 10 months onwards are in a much bigger yard uphill where they can get some fitness going before they start coming into the kennels and getting ready for breakers. And then we've got the undercover set up, and I think there's about 25 kennels we've got here, and we mainly use about 20 of them. I think there's about 17 in work. 16
in work, and just have a spare couple of kennels in case something's got to come in out of the yard to hurt themselves, or just needs a bit of treatment or a bit of a week locked away or anything. But yeah, we try and keep it down to, Georgia's here at the moment before she seeks a bit of going into the workforce, so she's sort of putting a hand in it so we can keep those few more in work at this time. But when she's not here, I tried to get down to about 12 in work, which Tina and I can handle. So yeah, at the moment it was about 16 in work. So
yeah. I think I've got about 5 in the kennels, 4 now. I've just sent one to Capalaba to start racing up the drag, but yeah, so 4 in work for me.
Georgia, you had a start to your training career that most people only dream of, and from your first 3 starters, you had 2 winners. Did you ever dream that you would have such a great start to your career?
Oh, definitely not. You can always dream and hope for it, but I didn't think it would happen. But I've been pretty lucky with a couple of the dogs that I've got. They've got a little bit of ability, and at the moment they're able to win their 5th grade races and that, but it's going to be a lot harder once they get up into a bit more grade. But yeah, but I'm a bit hard on myself, and I was pretty disappointed with my first start when he comes second. As soon as I seen him in the lead, I thought it was going to be all over, but he pulled up with a bit of an injury, and then 3 weeks later I was able to go bang with 2 winners after that.
You're a little hard on yourself, Georgia. Rob, I guess Georgia would have been a thrilling day for her, but I'm sure you and Tina were elated with that day when she did get that winning double?
Yeah, I think Timmy. I sort of a bit more nervous than what Georgia was. Watching from the Maitland straight, and it's a good thrill and it gives you a bit of a buzz. Like any winner, it doesn't matter where you win a race at, whether it's country track or straight racing, anywhere is a thrill to win a race anywhere. But the biggest thrill you get out of it is actually, we breed and rear and pre-train, educate, and then we race our own, which is the biggest thrill. Like, you get a bigger thrill out of that than actually train. We don't train dogs for other people other than Ross Penowitz. He's been a very close friend to our family, for a lot of years, and he's a good businessman with Husky Demolition, and he's supported us right through. And mate, he's one of the best owners you could have. He never interferes. He's always there if you need a handout or a lending hand, he'll say, what dogs have you got there? Do you want it? I'll come out and I'll buy one and you train it and things like that. Just little things and no pressure, you know what I mean? The worst thing in greyhound racing, if some people try to put pressure on you, and as I said to George, it's just patience. Don't overthink things. Just take it as it comes. Don't look too far ahead these days. I'm going back when I was younger with when I was knocking around with Macca, and Maxie Holmes was actually training one of Macca's dogs at the start, and his father Frank Holmes was alive, and he always said, "Look, son," he said, "you're the trainer, but the dog's the educator. You watch and learn off your dog. He will tell you how to be trained, how he wants to be trained, whether he likes to be fresh, worked hard, or whatever." And to this day, it's never truer words. And even Dave Irwin, I've always been a big influence with Dave Irwin. He's been a mentor to me, and I've watched the way he trains and his dogs race. And his father, Jack, was alive back in the Wyong days. And, he used to talk to you and he'd say, "Son, you're doing the right thing." Or, with young dogs at Wyong, we used to always start our young dogs at Wyong up the straight. And that's what we dearly missed until Richmond's come along, which has been terrific.
Yeah, I concur with you there, Rob, about Dave and Jack Irwin. And when I was training back in those 70s and 80s, Battler, if you had a dog in at Wyong on the Saturday and you looked through the fields and you found out that Dave Irwin had one, you weren't very confident at all.
No, he was a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, exactly right. And you're right, Robbie. He does a great job, and he's long been revered as one of the best musclemen. He obviously inherited that from Jack. But Georgia, you mentioned you've got around 5 dogs in work at the moment for yourself. One of them is a young pup by the name of Doing Time. Unfortunately, he got beaten at Bulli on Saturday night, but he's run 24.94 at Maitland. What's your plan with him? Is it just to take him through the grades? He's by Aston DB out of Wee Chevy. What are your plans with him?
Yeah, so Doing Time, he's a little bit of a handful. You set him for a race and then he might race at Bulli. We arrived at the track and we were saddened by the news that my grandmother had passed away. And I think I put him in the boxes, and he's always head straight down, and he actually looked up and kind of looked at me. So he must have sensed obviously the distress that I was in. And we ran a race that he was a bit lost, and then as he come around the home turn, he started to power home, but I've completely wiped that. So I'm trying a little method that I might have figured out with him. But he's got ability.
Georgia, apart from mum and dad, are there any other trainers who have had a big influence on your career and have given you a few little training techniques along the way?
Yeah, one trainer that I've always watched is Frank Hurst. I love what he does with his dogs, and I think I've met him once, and it was actually at Richmond. I handled Zipper by 2 for the win, and I come up and Dad was sitting there talking to a few people, and Frankie was sitting there, and I ended up sitting down, and I didn't know what he looked like at the time. I just knew of him and the dogs, like Good Odds Rada and all that going around. And we got chatting away, and he turned to me and he said, "Oh, that dog likes you better than your dad." And I started laughing, and then we all got talking, and then everyone left. Yeah, he got sacked. Everyone left, and I turned to Dad. I said, "Who was that was sitting next to me?" And he said, "That's Frank Hurst." And I said, "Good Odds Rada, Frank Hurst." And he said, "Yeah, the one and only." I said, "Oh my God, I'm a fucking idiot." And then, but Pete looked good with me and just there for encouragement as well. And he was actually another similar story. I first met him at Gosford. I was getting the unplaced prize money and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, when are you going to send me that good dog of yours? Because I had zipper shoes going around. Dad was racing him and he ended up knocking him off in a race over the 500 at Gosford. I think it was that night or
Yeah, that night.
Yeah, that night. And he turned to me and he said, when are you going to send me that good dog? And I didn't know who he was. And I turned to Dad. I said, who is this bloke? And Dad's like, that's Peter Gongiani. And I said, oh my God, I feel like more of an idiot. But yeah, but ever since then, he's been great support and actually doing time. We used to own him and Ross ended up offering some money and there was two people that I called. One was my grandmother to get some advice on whether to sell the dog, and the second person was Peter Gongiani. He gave me some advice on what I should do, and I was a bit stuck, and yeah, I ended up selling him to Ross. But if anyone else offered me any money, like, the dog wouldn't have been sold, and he was sold on one condition, that he'd stay here in our kennels, and yeah, but he's been good support.
Jorja, the Golden Easter egg has long been the holy grail in New South Wales. It's been replaced by the $1 Million Chase. If you could visualise standing on the winning dais of any race in Australia, particularly more so in New South Wales, which is the race that you would love to win the most?
Yeah, obviously your $1 Million Chases and all those big races are on your list, but the one race that I would love to win is the Macca. And obviously you'd want to win a black top, but the consolation final was named after my late uncle John McDermott, and yeah, that would be a privilege to once win that. So yeah, make him proud.
I've known you for a long time, Jorja, through my association with Macca, and you spent many, many days and nights up in the broadcast box with Macca and all the tracks around the Hunter Valley and in Newcastle and Central Coast. I'm sure you've got some fond memories of those days with Macca.
Yeah, definitely. I was a very quiet kid, or I still am. Very few people know my outgoing personality, but everyone else sees me as this quiet, just let alone kid. And when people used to say, oh, who you associated with and everything, I used to say Robert Howard and all that. But one big name I used to throw out, and I love to throw it out, was John McDermott. And they said, oh my God, he's like the god of greyhound race calling and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of fond memories. One of my favourite memories was we were going to Musselbrook greyhounds, and we had this van, and it was this old bus at the time. It was our first big van that we got around, and we arrived at the track, and we had to go through this other gate because it wouldn't fit under the shelter where you pay in. And we've got that through, and I think the cystic fibrosis team were sponsoring some races there. They were the major sponsor for the meeting, and I think
Macca got out of the bus and went to pay.
Yeah, and I was on crutches. I strained some ligaments in my ankle and stuff, and so I was on crutches hobbling around. And you know how Macca got around; he was hobbling around as he got a bit older, and we went to go pay for our thing, and they said, oh, no, you don't have to pay because you're a part of the cystic fibrosis support crew. Like, you're the sponsor of the race, so you don't have to pay to get through. And me and Macca's just looked at ourselves and started laughing. And we, because we're just hobbling around thing.
But Macca ended up coming back to the bus because I was driving, and he come back and he said, oh, the bloke just said to me, he said, oh, you don't have to pay today. And he said, yeah, I've got to pay. And he said, no, he said, you're with the cystic fibrosis. He said, you don't have to pay. And then Macca made out that he wasn't with us. He said he thought you were with the cystic.
He never said us.
One of the nicest man. I had the privilege of working with Macca for 25 or 30 years, obviously through Sky and through TKY. And I concur with everything you guys say about him. Just one of the loveliest men that you would ever meet in your life. Jorja, I'm sure he'd be very proud of you. Obviously, you're going to have a connection to greyhound racing for the rest of your life, but it's not your primary ambition, from what I'm led to believe. You're keen on joining the police force.
Yeah, so I'm at a 50-50 at the moment, whether to go more towards the police force or go something in more animal care and veterinary services. That side of things, because I've had some knee problems with surgeries and I've had a bit of back issues. So I'm kind of contemplating whether that will be the best path for me, whether I want to have a short career in the police force and kind of pay for it when I'm a bit older and start feeling the joints a bit more than I am at the moment, but I'm only 18. I'm already feeling the joints, and I know when the rain's coming because my body aches.
I know how that feels, don't worry.
Yeah. But it sounds a bit silly because I'm so young, but it happens. I've had a lot of sporting injuries, and like I'm pretty hefty on the sport. I used to train 7 days a week with netball, taekwondo, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I've started to look more down the avenue of some sort of animal care veterinary service.
Robbie, we're all proud of our daughters and our grandchildren and all that. Tell me, what sort of a student is Jorja as far as taking advice from you and Tina are concerned?
Yeah, well, Tina's not in view at the moment, but we can both say that she's pretty headstrong. Like, she likes to, how can I put it? You can advise her to do things, but I mean, she's very determined to better herself in anything she does. But she's got her ways, and she's a bit like me. And Tina would back this up. I get my mind set on things, and I'm hard to change. If I think I'm right and they're wrong, and sometimes Jorja will say, no, I'm doing it this way, and I say, oh, okay, righto. Well,
learn from your mistakes sometimes, or you look like the best trainer in the world.
If you don't make mistakes in life, you never learn.
Exactly right, mate.
And dog racing is exactly the same. If you got a smooth sailing, I mean, it's different to 37 years ago when I started training. I mean, I was in it before then, but like when we were knocking around with Maxie Holmes and people like that with Mac, we used to train the dogs up the beach. Like it was all beach work mainly, and free galloping and swimming, and dogs back then were racing twice a day. But now things have just changed, and if you get a run a week out of the dogs now, you're going good.
You sure are. Jorja, continue good luck with your career, whether it's staying in greyhound racing and doing the vet work, or whether you join the police force. Robbie, thank you for joining as well on Behind the Boxes. You've done a great job with Jorja as far as a human being is concerned, but also obviously by imparting your knowledge on it. As I say, good luck with the future. Many more winners to come, and let's hope we see your name up in headlights again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Timmy.
Thanks, guys.
Robbie and Jorja Howard, they're joining us on Behind the Boxes. And after this break, we're going to come back. We're going to talk with Nick Babos and also Stephen Bowes from Greyhound Racing New South Wales. More importantly, we're going to have what's hot and what's not. And welcome back to this week's edition of Behind the Boxes. Well, as we all know, the $1 Million Chase is the richest greyhound race in the world, but the second richest greyhound race in the world will take place at the Meadows in December with the inaugural running of the Phoenix, which offers $750,000 to the winner. Now, the concept is based loosely on the thoroughbred race, the Everest, where businesses and individuals pitch to buy one of the slots available. And in the case of the Phoenix, they were $75,000 per slot. Now, the successful slot holders were Greyhound Racing New South Wales, the New South Wales GBOTA, Racing Queensland, Ray Border, SEN, Sportsbet, Tabcorp, and the Dogs WA. Joining us now to discuss the Phoenix and how we at Greyhound Racing New South Wales are going to decide which dog will represent us is the General Manager of Commercial and Marketing, Nick Babos. Nicky, welcome along to Behind the Boxes. Firstly, can you tell us why Greyhound Racing New South Wales decided to pitch for a slot, given that it's a race conducted by an interstate jurisdiction and, to many, a race club that's in competition to us here in New South Wales?
Well, firstly, g'day Duke, g'day Battler. Thanks for having me on the show. I've been loving the work you guys are doing, particularly hearing from all the participants. I loved the Lils last week. Team Brewer, Mick Hardman, it's been fantastic. And now you've got Mestrov and Billet out of the way. It was clearly time to get a bit of genuine talent from HQ. So thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, look, we're absolutely thrilled to have got our slot for the Phoenix. It's an interesting question. I think the view from the team has been it's a positive thing when the industry is so healthy. You know, we've had the $1 Million Chase. This Phoenix concept, as you said, mate, the Everest has been a huge success. We see this being equally successful. I think the team at the Meadows and Ash Baker and selecting, you know, a wide variety of slot holders have done the industry a great favour there in terms of, you know, we've got representation, 2 slots here in New South Wales, Racing Queensland, Dogs WA, Ray Border down in South Australia. There's a real reason now for participants around the country to get behind this race. And, you know, from my perspective, if you look at all sports, you know, the healthier and stronger the competition, you know, the better the product, the more interest, fans, wagering outcomes. So, you know, I think you got to take a bit of that sort of state of origin flavour into it too. You know, as you said, $1.1 million in prize money up for grabs, $750 to the winner. You know, New South Wales wants a big chunk of that. So, you know, as far as interest goes, you know, I think the New South Wales industry, we're really going to target a new audience here, give them a reason to follow a New South Wales dog and a New South Wales trainer in the race. So, yeah, look, we're through it. I think competition's healthy and we want to be a part of it.
And Nick, one of the criteria for winning a slot was the holder would promote the race. How will Graham Racing New South Wales do that without cannibalising its own product?
Yeah, a fair question too, Battler. From our perspective, you know, it was really disappointing for the $1 Million Chase to be postponed. You know, that sets things up for a big autumn race carnival actually next year, which will be exciting from a promotional point of view. But this actually the Phoenix fills a void in the calendar, to be honest. So we'll get right behind that. In terms of cannibalising the product, it's interesting when we talk to our wagering partners, they're firmly of the belief that, to use their phrase, it's kind of like more is more. So the more racing that's going on, the more interest there is, and that'll only drive positive outcomes for all jurisdictions, and particularly us here in New South Wales. And we haven't quite landed on what the selection process will be, Battler, but you know, we've chatted about a few ideas there. But one thing that's sure and for certain, if we go down the path of a race series to select the dog, you know, Wayne Billett and his racing ops team have proven through several lockdowns that there's no problem in terms of us fitting in a series that won't disrupt the other racing program that's already in place. So. Yeah, no, I don't think there'll be an issue with cannibalisation. I think it'll just add to the excitement of what's happening at the time.
Nicky, on a personal basis, I have to admit, I was quite surprised that the New South Wales GBOTA actually pitched for a slot as well, and they were successful, given that the New South Wales GBOTA is basically funded by GRNSW. Now, I'm assuming that they will probably run a qualifying series at Wentworth Park. Hopefully, we'll be back there sooner rather than later. But to me, it wouldn't make a lot of sense if they run a series and we run a series, or Greyhound Racing New South Wales run a series as well. So when you're looking at strategies, what are you thinking about coming up with when it comes time for GRNSW to select the greyhound that represents them?
Look, firstly, you know, I don't know what the G-Bots are up to, but I think it's fantastic for New South Wales to have another slot there and give another dog and another trainer an opportunity to win that prize money. But from our perspective, as I said at the start, this is as much about attracting a new audience. And hopefully you guys have seen over the past couple of years that we've created some fantastic partnerships with the likes of News Corp and the Daily Telegraph. And we intend to leverage those partnerships. I mean, the Daily Telegraph is the people's paper, and we'll use the people's paper to identify the people's dog. And it's about giving New South Wales fans of greyhound racing a reason to support the Phoenix. And I've got no doubt that we'll have, you know, we're not short on ideas on how we'll select the dog, whether it be, you know, a panel of experts. There's plenty of those at head office, whether it's the race series. We'll identify a dog that we can all get behind. And along the way, we'll be telling the stories about the dogs involved, the trainers behind those dogs. And from my point of view, I think it's as much about the story to the final of the Phoenix for us as it is about anything else, really.
Nikki, we'll wait with bated breath for that announcement, which will naturally come right here on Behind the Boxes in the next couple of weeks. But
Where all the big stories are broken, Duke.
absolutely right, including what's hot and what's not coming up shortly. Hey, Nick, you've been with Greyhound Racing New South Wales now for around 3 years as the General Manager of Commercial and Marketing. Apart from enjoying a punt, you basically come from a non-racing background as far as your business life is concerned. What was it that initially attracted you to the position at Greyhound Racing New South Wales?
Yeah, Duke, I'd been at News Corp for coming up on 10 years and always working on sport across commercial products. And my last role there was around sports marketing. And it was time for a change and time for a challenge. And in my role there, I'd worked directly with the likes of the AFL, Cricket Australia, NRL, any big World Cups or Olympics, Commonwealth Games. There was nothing that was jumping out that was particularly exciting in any of those organisations. I say that respectfully. I think, they've got what would be considered best practice across the board in those sort of tier one sports, understandably. But the opportunity came about. The great Tony Mestrov and I actually worked together many years ago. I sat next to him in a little sports marketing company when we first established our friendship. And when he was asking would I be interested in joining Greyhound Racing New South Wales, at first I was like, that's probably not for me. I mean, as you say, Duke, I worked on our racing products at News and was across the acquisition of punters and RaceNet from a marketing perspective, but no idea really when it comes to the ins and outs of greyhound racing, like you guys know. So there was it was the challenge, and which I saw as a real opportunity. I mean, greyhound racing is in a real exciting rebuild phase, and I've loved every day of it. It's a complex industry. There's many stakeholders, but there's so much room for improvement, and I've seen that in terms of what we've achieved on the racing side of the business, and also what we've achieved with greyhounds as pets. It's been exciting working with the likes of Tim Cahill and recently Ryan Pappenhausen coming on board. We've got a campaign coming up that features those two guys and Jess Fox and Paralympian Reed McCracken. 3 years ago, it would be hard to imagine you'd be sort of rattling off that list of names. We actually had a Zoom call yesterday with Tim Cahill, and we were taking him through that particular campaign that's about to launch. And he was saying, do you remember, guys, 3 years ago when we were going around the grounds with the launch for his ambassador role, and everyone was like, greyhounds, really? The experience, I just say this from my own personal experience, I can't get up to the cafe here at home and not see a greyhound walking around the streets. And I really do think, the hard work from the industry and Tony and the team to change the way that people perceive greyhound racing and greyhounds as pets. We've come a long way, and that's something I'm really proud of, and it was what attracted me to the role and why I'm loving the role. There's still some work to be done, and I'm keen to be a part of it and enjoying it.
And Nick, you've been a big part of all of those initiatives you've just mentioned, but you're a big part of securing free-to-air coverage for the $1 Million Chase on Channel 9 last year. It was a raging success. Over 800,000 viewers tuned in for the big one.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool, wasn't it? You guys know better than me, but who'd have thought if you 5 years ago to say we'll be on primetime coverage on Nine's main channel in NRL prelim, the jewel, the crown for Channel 9, and the coverage was seamless. All the research we do, we know that NRL fans are the same fans who are punting on greyhounds, and it goes back to what we're saying around acceptance. So for me, it was a real thrill actually seeing the $1 Million Chase live cross off the back of Storm and Canberra, I think it was. And, that just spoke volumes for the work that's been done over the past few years, the hard work that's been done by everyone. And we've got some exciting new partnerships coming up next year. We'll be building on that. It's only getting bigger and better, Battler. Really exciting.
The perception of greyhounds is changing in the marketplace, Nick, as you say, like with our GAP program ambassadors, Ryan Pappenhausen, Timmy Cahill, Jess Fox doing a great job for it as well. But we also know that wagering is booming. particularly in greyhound racing in New South Wales. Some of the figures that we're turning over are basically astronomical, and it comes off the back, obviously, of a pandemic. People have less entertainment options. They've got less avenues to spend their money, and they are turning to wagering. Hopefully, they're doing it in a responsible way. But you spoke about concepts and initiatives. What else can we expect to see in the future? Is syndication high on the books there?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about syndication for some time, and the thing that I'm learning around syndication is it's really complex. You know, it's not as simple as just saying we're going to do it and setting it up. There's a lot of legal boxes to tick, and yeah, so we're committed to that. I think you know, you think about new audiences and what can be achieved with greyhound racing versus the thoroughbreds. I mean, Ryan Pappenhausen said it himself. You know, it's just a much more affordable option. And in terms of the, you know, why the product is doing so well, I mean, the racing is on, the frequency and volume of racing that's on, and during a pandemic when people are looking for entertainment, the races run and won in 30 seconds, you know, and why it's so popular to the 18 and 35-year-olds, you know, you're picking a number, you're picking a box, you're picking a name, and you're getting that, you know, 30 seconds and you're done. So what's coming up in terms of innovation? I'm really excited about the racing program to start next year, basically from the Megastar, Dapto's Megastar through to $1 Million Chase. There's plenty of racing coming up. We've got some exciting initiatives with our media partners. Probably not much more I can say there, but you know, the only thing I'd say to anyone who's listening out there in terms of what we're doing is we're having a red hot crack, you know, so we're pushing the boundaries wherever we can to do more in that innovation space. So yeah, that's probably what's happening there, mate.
Well, Nicky, you've broken your maiden status on Behind the Boxes. I've got to tell you, mate, you've been excellent, only because you signed the invoices that I put in there. So
Yeah, too good, you Duke lost, too good.
no, mate. So, mate, again, when it comes to making that announcement in regards to the Phoenix, I'd like you to come back on and do that with us here on Behind the Boxes, because it is, again, it's a life-changing amount of money, $750,000 to the winner.
Yeah, fantastic, Duke. I'd love to come back on, and yeah, we'll be banging our heads together over the course of the next week, and it shouldn't be too far away that we can announce what we're doing there to select that dog.
All right, Nick Babos, thank you very much. The General Manager of Commercial and Marketing at GRNSW. And mate, we'll speak with you shortly here on Behind the Boxes.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Loving the show.
Well, from one department of head office at Greyhound Racing New South Wales to another, and as everyone in the industry knows the importance of a dog's diet, and whilst it is essential to feed your racing greyhounds the best, sometimes it can be an extremely draining exercise on the pocket. Now, recently, Greyhound Racing New South Wales has teamed up with the food supplier Real Pet Foods in a partnership deal that is aimed at benefiting our clubs and our participants. And the man responsible for driving this strategy is Stephen Bowes, the Commercial Partnership Manager for GRNSW. Stephen, welcome to Behind the Boxes. Firstly, how does the industry and the particular race clubs benefit from the partnership deal with Real Pet Foods?
G'day guys, how you going? Look, it's the partnership with Real Pet Food is essentially giving participants an opportunity to purchase kibble, a good quality kibble at a reduced price. You've got the availability of consistent food there and the convenience of picking it up at the track, the club as well.
And Stephen, you were previously employed by Real Pet Foods, so you've got obviously an in-depth knowledge of all of the products. What range of products are available to participants?
Look, guys, we wanted to simplify it, so we've gone with four products, 3 kibbles and 1 biscuit. So you've got the Ivory Coat brand in whole grain, which is low protein, low fat. You've got a Stockman and Paddock kibble that's down the middle, a good everyday food. And you've got the Ivory Coat grain-free, which is a high protein, high fat. So it gives all participants a chance to mix their meats as they normally do, and to vary protein and fat contents for their dogs. Also got Stockman and Paddock biscuits as well, which are 2x2 biscuits, which the industry is pretty on board with those as well.
Stephen, which clubs currently stock the Real Pet Food products, and moving forward, is the plan to have them available virtually every race club across New South Wales?
Yeah, so at the moment you've got Richmond and Dapto that have currently got stock. You can purchase it from the club right now, today. Goulburn have just placed their order, so they'll have it within a week or two. And there is a criteria to be met, so it is available to all clubs, and my role will be to speak to all clubs to give them the opportunity to come on board and to do it if they require. So yeah, moving forwards, there will be a number of clubs that, if they're able to do it, they will do it.
And Stephen, how do participants, get their hands on the products? Do they contact the club directly? Can they do it online? What's the actual process?
So, like I said, Dapto and Richmond, they can purchase it right now. Any other clubs for participants, speak to your clubs. They will then come back to myself and inform myself. So, like a lot of us, lockdown's been a bit of an issue, so I haven't been able to get out to all clubs and present to. But definitely for participants to let their clubs know about their interest, and between myself and clubs, we'll contact each other and work out if it's feasible for all of them.
Stephen, the partnership itself, it's not just for our participants, our racing greyhounds and the clubs, obviously, but it also extends to our GAP program, our greyhounds as pets as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge boost for the GAP, for GAP. It's Real Pet Food have committed to supplying food for all GAP facilities. So you've got a consistent food all the way through from essentially racing all the way through to adoption. And we've also got the availability of all adopted or fostered greyhounds going home with a welcome pack, which includes the food that they were fed within the GAP facility. So there's a real streamlined process of the food, which is a major part to all new dogs going out.
All right, so it's good food. It's real pet food. And for any of our participants who would like to buy the kibble or the 2B2 biscuits, get in touch with the club. As Steve has just said, Dapto and Richmond are stocking it. Goulburn is next on board. So if you live in a region which you can't get to those tracks or you can't order it from those tracks, let the club know. The club will then in turn let Steve know. Mate, thank you very much for joining us here on Behind the Boxes, and let's hope this Real Pet Foods partnership it continues on for many years.
Thanks for your time, guys. Yeah, it will. And yeah, please go out and speak to clubs about it.
Stephen Bowes there from Greyhound Racing New South Wales with the Real Pet Foods partnership. Battler, our favourite part of the podcast, the vidcast, whatever you want to call it. What's hot? What's not? There's plenty happening. What is hot for you this week?
Oh, well, there's only one what's hot for me this week. We've highlighted her on this show a little while back, but gee, Miss Esme at Richmond on Sunday evening, Duke, wowee, breaking the track record over the 717 metres, and what a race. Super Estrella and Miss Esme. It was a good old-fashioned match race in the end. They just cleared out and they had it between them, and she knuckled down in the latter stages, reeling in Super Estrella, who was bowled in defeat, and she actually broke the previous track record in finishing runner-up. Blue Lorien's record was set in, I think, 2011, so it was a 10-year-old record, but oh boy, she is a talent. First up over the half mile, she'd broken the track records over the middle journey at Dubbo and Bathurst in the last, 6 or 8 weeks, and she is a star on the rise, Duke, and I got thinking, I don't think we've had such a talented group of probably young stayers in New South Wales. I'd nearly go back a decade or two, Duke, and I'm sure you've had a bit of a think about this. At the moment, we've got Miss Esme, Super Estrella. You've got Ice Cream Story, who was gallant when finishing behind Stanley Road in a 600 last Friday at Richmond, when they both ran very quick time. Now she might get up to the 700 Ice Cream Story, and we've got Stanley Road, a dual Group 1 winner. Zipping Nisseko's on the comeback trail. She'll go around at Dapto on Saturday night. I'll tell you what, it's a top bunch of stayers at the moment.
It is, and you often find it comes in waves, Timmy. If you look back, as say, if you go back 10 years, you go back 20 years, I go back obviously a lot longer than that. I remember the days of Woolly Wong and Miss Hilo and Cabanossi and dogs like that. You go to Harold Park, there would be an invitation every Saturday night. And such was the quality of the dog. Invariably, you had a different winner each week.
Yeah, and I didn't mention Bar Sandy, who won at the Gardens on Friday. Prim and Proper, she's still racing really well. It's just, you know, when we get back to Weddy, gee, I think we're in for some really, really good races. And we've got the Sydney Cup coming up, Duke. So it could be a Sydney Cup for the ages this year. I can't wait to see them all come together because, you know, the likes of Ice Cream Story and Miss Esmo, I think they're going to be suited to Wentworth Park, you know, particularly Ice Cream Story getting up to the 700 if they do go that way. And you've got Stanley Road, a back marker. I think we're going to have some mouth-watering clashes in the next probably 6 or 12 months, Duke.
Yeah, the only one to have actually done it is Stanley Road. Of course, he won the Group 1 Association Cup there earlier this year. So he's been there, he's done that. The others have to prove themselves. Miss Esme running that track record battler at Richmond. I'll tell you what's hot for me, another track record, Cash View for Robbie Cook, runs 25.01 at Grafton on Sunday night. As we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you see some greyhounds that just literally grow a leg when they get to a track that they love. And that is simply the case with Cash View. We've known that he's got enormous ability. He's run 29.7 odd at Albion Park a couple of times, but he has taken to that new Grafton circuit like a duck to water. So he now holds that track record at 25.01. The other thing that's hot for me, again, staying in the Northern Rivers area, is trainer Keith Bowen. And at Lismore on Tuesday night, he had 4 winners and 2 Quinellas. I don't know. I'm assuming it probably has been one of Keith's biggest nights in greyhound racing to train those winners and Quinellas. More importantly, and incidentally, Timmy, that all 4 of his winners by Fernando Bale out of Lady Olivia.
No shock there, Fernando Bale. Sorry, more winners, that's for sure, Duke. But that's a really, really good training performance. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Keith, but like you suggested, I'd say it's probably one of his biggest nights in the game. 4 winners, you know, you just like to go to the track and come home with 1 winner, let alone 4. Yeah. But no, that's some performance. And just going back to Cash View, that was a staggering win, actually. He was moderately away and then he just let go mid-race. And what about the last 40 or 50? Didn't he find the line like a runaway freight train? It'd be interesting where Robbie goes with him now. I know he will be eligible, I think, by 12 or 13 days for the upcoming Vic Peters at Wentworth Park. Of course, the Lismore Cup is on the horizon. Blacktop's only a few weeks away. So these feature races, we've had a lull here in New South Wales with the $1 Million Chase, being put back to next year. So these big races will begin in the next few weeks. It'll be interesting to see where some of these dogs sort of go, but I'd imagine we'll probably see Cash View back in Sydney. And of course, he did go around at Wenny Park earlier in the year in a heat of the National Derby.
Yeah, and Cookie's got him in at Albion Park on Thursday night. He's drawn box 2 there in race 7. As we said, he's already run smart time there. Battler, I'll tell you what's not hot for me also, a couple of things here totally related to greyhound racing. No, they're not. They're totally related to me and a few others. Moving house, right? Seriously, the lowest job ever, right? I hate it, right? I'm in the process of it right now. And the other thing, right, I'm tell you what, I'm not enjoying Facebook Marketplace. So obviously moving to Grafton, I decided to get rid of a few things. Honestly, mate, it is a haven for nutters, believe me.
This could become Duke and Battler's whinge, not just what's not. Look, moving house, yeah. Fortunately, I'm settled now where I am, where we are. We've been here nearly 4 years. But prior to that, look, I concur. I moved around Sydney 5 or 6 times in about 5 or 6 years. Without a shadow of a doubt, the lowest job on the planet. And I do remember the first time I moved, I went in and borrowed the Sky Racing, the van they had there, and my old man come down from Newcastle and helped me move, and I was in a 1-bedroom unit back then, and that was enough for me. I haven't really moved myself since. I've always got the removalists in, so big tick to those blokes. Whatever it costs, you just got to get the removalists in. I hope you did, or you didn't sit and do it all yourself, did you?
Please, I'm happy to pay the 132 an hour, right? And let me tell you, there'll be a little bit extra for him as well, going from Palm Beach to Grafton. Now, Battler, the rumour file, massive feedback last week about the rumour file.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for the stitch up. Hey, listen, the rumour is Wenty's coming back sooner rather than later. You're in the operations team at Greyhound Racing New South Wales. This is like having a mole within the organisation. I say that in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, Duke. I've been called a lot worse in my time. Don't worry about that. Hey?
Join the club. Now, is there any truth to this rumour?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we can confirm that rumour is spot on. Trialling at Whitworth Park will recommence next week. The first meeting slated for Weddy to return as a racing venue is Wednesday, September 29. Of course, Duke, we are still in, it's a fluid situation here in New South Wales, and things do change, sometimes hourly, but daily or weekly. So, you just got to monitor that, and everyone can just keep an eye on the calendars and any announcements. But yeah, at this stage, racing back September 29, Wednesday midweek, and trialling's recommencing at Wedding next week. So that's really good news. I think we're all looking forward to tuning in on a Wednesday and Saturday night. The best greyhounds in the state getting back to Wedding. It's just got that extra oomph to it, hasn't it, when Wedding's on and all of the good dogs going around.
Yeah, and there were a number of other rumours that we were going to bring up today, but legals haven't got back to us. So I'm going to protect us a little bit there.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
We might have more on that next week. Now, listen, our dogs to follow have been going really well. Bar Sandy won last week at the Gardens.
Give yourself a rap.
Absolutely, mate. I've got it because you won't. Right?
And no one else will either.
$1.70 off the red, right? Are you kidding? That was still, should have had that mask on. Oh, we do wear masks. Sorry, I mean the mask that covers your eyes. What is your dog to follow this week?
Springview Magic. Now, this guy, he's in the care of Mick Hardman, who we had on the show 4 or 5 weeks ago. He came through the Magic Maiden over the Golden Easter Egg Carnival at Whitworth Park. He won a heat of that series. And he actually semi-final and made it to the final. Look, now he went down to Melbourne for a couple of runs. He's back in the care of Mick Hardman, and he won at Dapto last Saturday night, straight to the lead, running 29.70 odd, leading all of the way. Now he ran 5:30 opening fraction. Now they don't go much quicker around Dapto. He didn't begin all that brilliantly, but he's got that high cruising speed in the early and mid stages. And I love leaders. I love those greyhounds have got that high speed early on, Duke, because they're going to win more often than not. Now, I'm sure Mick will probably target the Group 1 Vic Peters at Weddy Park next month. He has run 29.65 around Weddy. So, look, I think he's a dog who will race through the grades, and we're going to see him in group company over the next year or so for mine. Springview Magic.
All right, I am heading to Newcastle, and I'm going to have a greyhound by the name of Mickey Doo as my dog to follow. Anyone who's got an interest in chases, obviously, around New South Wales, particularly from the Gardens and the Hunter Valley, they know this dog. He's only a young one. He's had 10 starts now, 7 wins and 2 minors by Aston DB out of Sally Doo. He's owned by Luke Murrell, who's obviously well known in the thoroughbred industry as far as his syndication company is concerned, but he's also had success in greyhound racing, prepared by Mark Davidson, no stranger to having a good dog in his kennels. And Timmy, I know you know this dog as well as what I do. You go back 4 starts, he ran 29.33 at the Gardens, beating a dog by the name of Aston Reward, and he only just got in that day, won by 11 3/4 lengths. He is a chaser with enormous ability.
He is. He's got a massive engine, and I don't know him really well. Actually, I know Mark Davidson. He's trained a few greyhounds for me over the years. Mickey Do, he was actually getting set for the Grafton Maiden, but he did a little injury in a trial in the lead up to that series, so they had to pull the pin. Yeah, he's capable of running staggering figures when he does put it all together. I did chat to the guys earlier. He is looking at the black top at this stage, targeting the black top, depending how things work out, whether they then go up to Lismore for the Lismore Cup, or if he didn't happen to get through to the black top final, you could then go to the Vic Peters. So a little bit to play out as far as Mickey Do's preparation is concerned, but I know they are looking at the black top, and that is Davo's hometown feature race. So it'd have been a hell of a lot to take out that one, but it's great to see Luke Murrell and the team at Australian Bloodstock get a good dog, because I'll tell you what, they've put their hand in the pocket a number of times to buy dogs, and they've been in the game now for a number of years, and it's really good to see them get a really good one. And Mark, and they actually had a little bit of success recently with Let's See. She was a stay, and she travelled around the country actually contesting the big races. So yeah, good to see they've got another one here. They picked it up after he'd had one run at the Gardens over the 400 metres. I know they've got an astute judge who does tip them into dogs, and yeah, it's been a really good buy and a really good find.
Yeah, he is a greyhound, as I say, with a stack of ability. 29-3 a couple of times at the Gardens now, and he's the sort of dog you would love to see go to Wendy. So let's hope that rumour is true, and let's hope Mickey Do continues on his winning way. If you want to get in touch with us here at Behind the Boxes, there is the email address there, btb@grnsw.com.au. But as always, Simmy, we end the week with what has Battler bought online. Now, you actually sent me a photo of the espresso martinis that you were making on Saturday night for Paula, and there they are on screen now. They actually look quite good, but as I said, yeah, I would have preferred a little bit more froth, but tell me, the proof was in the pudding. How did they taste?
Actually forgot I sent you that photo. I don't know how many I had during the afternoon.
Tell you forgot, given by the messages that followed that photo. Yeah.
No, they were actually quite good. Paula enjoyed them. They were better than the first week. I sent a little photo.
Have you converted? Or not?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah. They were stronger. Caffeine wise, yeah. So I am slowly converting. So yeah, we had 2 or 3 of those. Had a barbecue on. It was a beautiful day in Sydney on Saturday. I think we hit 30 degrees. Even well, I didn't get in, but the kids jumped into the pool. Too cold for me. I did have the heater on, but it didn't heat it up. It didn't heat it up quick enough for me to jump in. But yeah, they got another run, and we're still in lockdown here, so they might even get a run this coming Saturday. Duke, we'll aim up again, eh?
Well, I've been fervently buying online. Bunnings has been a recipient of a lot of money of mine as I head south to Grafton. So have you bought anything this week, Battler? Or is it
No, very quiet. Very quiet this week. I might have to have a look. I mentioned last week the Kogan messages, because it's been the favourite website. But no, very quiet this week. So I might have to have a look over the next few days and bring something to the show next week, eh?
Well, it has been a big show. Nick Babos was on, along with Stephen Bowes from Greyhound Racing New South Wales, Jorja and Rob Howard. We hope you have enjoyed Behind the Boxes this week. As we say, we're moving into that time of the year where hopefully, as I say, we return to Wentworth Park. The big races are coming up. We've got the Phoenix in Melbourne in December, and obviously GRNSW. We're going to be putting our heads together there to work out how we select the greyhound. $750,000 going to the winner of that event. Battler, once again, thank you for your input here on Behind the Boxes. I'll catch you next week from the new Grafton studio too.
Oh, it's been a pleasure and a lot of fun. And gee, Grafton, what a life you've got! What a life you'll be sitting.
I can tell you this. I've got a pool there, but it's not heated, so I know who's travelling best between you and I.
No, it was already on the here when we got here. So I have. No, I don't think if anything goes wrong with that one, I don't think they'll be just jumping. It won't be heated. Believe me. Believe me.
Swimming pools. But hey, mate, catch you next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Duke. Ta-da.
And thank you for your company here on Behind the Boxes this week. And as I say, next week, Another big show coming up, a very special guest that we will let you know via social media throughout the week. But until next week, I'm Mark Duclos. Bye for now.